Welcome to the third installment of Premise Factory, where I will give you premise ideas for free in hope that you will use it to help me change the anime industry for the better. This week, we will be looking at Isekai premises once more. As stated before, I don't have love for the Isekai genre myself, but if it is the trend right now, the wave we can ride on, then maybe it would do just more good getting on it and slowly trying to bend its trajectory until we get it our way, rather than trying to change it with force. Unlike last time, this time our Isekai will be more about doing something different inside the Isekai. It's more about the events and actions than the setting. The setting and location itself might not necessarily be unique, but I can assure you the interaction with the world isn't going to be common. This project is meant to inspire you to lend a hand in increasing the light novel industry's quality standards, which I believe can also help the anime out of its current crisis. Please check my video series on the topic out if you had not watched it yet. Like always, I can assure 100% that no one else had ever done a story similar to or exactly like this before, so if you do choose to write about it, maybe check it out first if someone else has been doing it, or just go ahead with it if you're confident. I mean, the world is flooded with a million Gary Stu Isekai, so what's to a similar well-meaning Isekai gonna hurt? So now let's dive in, shall we? I love this one. The protagonist is Isekai to the world where singing is magic. And I mean this in the campiest way possible. As in, he's in a world where suddenly a girl could break out into a song about how good a day she is having, and everyone around her would drop whatever they are doing and join with the singing and dancing. Singing is everything in this world. Everything important is done through singing, be it negotiating peace, getting a sacred relic, and especially battles. The protagonist can come to this world thinking he just swing his sword around, but it turns out even the orcs will refuse to fight him unless they both sing. Hell, every weapon in this world should be musical themed, like microphone sword, microphone stand staff, boombox hammer, tuning fork spear, and so forth. Or just make them flat out a musical instrument. Go full Mad Max flamethrower guitar on it. So perhaps the protagonist can be transported to this world with his main heroine, who is more talented in singing than he is, which is why she was able to pick up the ropes of this world faster and become his singing teacher. An additional idea is that each race in the world might sing a different genre. The orcs rapping, the dwarves singing metal, the elves singing country, dark elves singing R&B, mermen singing choir, the dragons singing opera, and so on. So the protagonist has to learn and master that genre of singing to either negotiate or defeat those races in battle. It is a camp fest, but because of that I also think you don't have to flesh out the story just as much, because it would be plenty of fun by itself seeing the protagonist going down the path of adventure by singing. I mean, singing equals magic is clearly nothing new in the world of fantasy, so I don't really know why no one else had come up with this idea earlier. And maybe it might not even be limited to Disney logic of people just randomly singing everywhere. You could actually create a logical magic system to justify why everyone is so constantly ready to break out into song at the drop of a hat. Singing magic is the major energy source of this world, which means singing is used to fill just about anything and everything. And why, even in daily life, people would join in on random musical segments to activate their own magic and do even mundane things like wash clothes more easily. Same applies to combat. It's why even physical races like orcs still use their singing magic. Their magic might not allow them to shoot fireballs or heal people the same way singing elves or humans could, but it would grant them enhanced strength, speed, and defenses. Which is why unless he can sing, the protagonist just won't be able to fight anything at all. On that note, if you want more meat to work on with the plot, here's some ideas. The protagonist doesn't hate singing, in fact he likes it, only that he's one of the people who loves singing when he's alone and thought he was better than he actually is. Which was why one day when he did get the chance to sing in front of people, maybe he recorded his singing and posted it online. He ended up being ridiculed and had ever since swore off singing in public ever again. Or maybe not limited to public, he just became avoidant of singing altogether. And so when he was isekai into this world with his childhood friend who is far more skilled a singer than he is, which in this world translates to her being far superior to him in combat, magic, and diplomacy, He thought it was she who is the chosen hero, and in the beginning just relegated himself to a supporting role. It doesn't mean he just let her carry him in this adventure. He'd still be the one to strategize and tell the heroine what she should be singing about, so she literally is his mouthpiece. But soon enough, they come to learn that this can't continue forever. As massively talented as she is, the heroine's singing skill would start to run out when they're faced with each new genre from encountering new races. Maybe when they came face to face with the undead race with their screamo, it was the first time she got utterly defeated. With that, the protagonist would urge the heroine to practice her singing in those genres. But in turn, the heroine encouraged the protagonist that he should be the one to practice. That he was the actual chosen hero for his ability to sing in all genres, which in this world would equate to being able to speak all languages, the ability to bring all people together. But the protagonist remains scarred and doubtful of his own singing abilities. So it is a story about gaining confidence, as well as being about no matter how bad you start, you can always perfect a skill through determination and hard working. It's a huge departure from the other isekais where the protagonists usually just come with OP power like instant ramen. And where else should his inspiration come from other than the heroine leading him into a duet a la A Whole New World? From there, the protagonist has to learn screamo to fight against the undead and win, regaining his confidence in singing, and they return the same way they came. Previously, the heroine's singing may have allowed them to defeat the orcs and dwarfs, but this time, it is the protagonist singing that convinced those races to join them. This leads to a climax with the Demon Lord, who, like the protagonist at this point, singing a chimeric cluster F of a song, combining all genres of the music in this world. Which is why the protagonist similarly has to use all of his acquired combined singing skill to fight back. Overall, it's a light-hearted fun story with a lot of opportunity for comedy, yet also with lots of space for depth and heart. I mean, just in the first arc alone, you know that rap in animes will always be a meme fountain, especially when it's the cute girl doing the rapping. But now imagine that if that cute girl is spitting flame against that rapping orc. That would certainly be more of a sight to behold, don't you think? Though therein lies the problem. It's a musical, but without actual music. I mean, the point is we're writing the story to support the anime industry, so it is natural to wish for an anime adaptation, but problem is when you have to start from either light novel or manga, there just won't be any audible music. I mean, you can write down the lyrics, and I do encourage you to do that, which is why I would recommend that if you want to pick up this story, you better be sure you can also write some rhymes. And to add to that, you better be able to write these rhymes in Japanese, which means not only you are forced to a unicycle, you must write that unicycle on a tightrope as well. I think for this you might need to research how Japanese lyric in each song genre is written, because I can assure you they're not always the same as in English. To help the industry, fighting on their home field is inevitable. So yeah, as much as I'm trying to sell this as a fun, light-hearted idea filled with humor, I just had to warn you that writing this certainly won't be easy. That said, let's move on to another fun, light-hearted idea. This is an isekai that takes gamification to a different perspective. I think it is needless to say at this point, but most isekai operate on JRPG logic with random encounters, leveling up stats, upgrading gear and earning skills and whatever. But this one, we take a different approach. It is a game, but instead of being a JRPG, it is a game show where a large group, around 10 people from this world, is transported to an isekai to participate for a prize. Upon arriving in the isekai, perhaps they could also select or maybe is given a superpower at random that they can use in a competition. For an edgy version, it could be akin to Kaiji, Danganronpa or Deadman Wonderland, where this game show is lethal and when someone is to be eliminated from the competition, they literally die. But hey, I promised you this be a fun, lighthearted idea, so we're not going with that. Especially since the dead game format simply is no longer fresh and to genre bash it with isekai wouldn't really lead to a new taste. What we're going for here is the more comedic route, where combat is strictly forbidden and the goal of the story isn't to survive but to actually gain, an actual reward in the isekai, like a seed of royalty or something, while the eliminated loser simply is sent home without harm. The competition can be various things from going through an obstacle course a la Fall Guys or Isoji in Takeshi's Castle, forming a team play in an escape room, or to a talent show, to a cooking competition, to survival. You know, the usual game show stuff, only with superpowers added. Funny how simple yet so unique this can be, right? If you're going to have a battle, make that the very first stage of the game show, have them fight a monster or something. Which is why before going in, everyone would choose an OP combat-oriented power and clear the first stage with ease, only to find out the rest of the competition is meant to be non-combat, and now they'll have to adapt their time stop or sword beam power to these situations. The adaptation of these powers could add for a new creative flair. It's a story that encourages creative adaptation of powers for the sake of solving very specific problem, like JoJo. As for the cast, I think now you can actually go the Danganronpa route and just make a group of wacky, over-the-top characters, each with their own distinct personality. Here's one so easy and obvious I don't know why no one else has ever done it. The premise of an entire family being sent to an isekai together. I mean, I know why it's not common. It's because anime parents aren't already known for being alive to begin with. And your usual isekai is so focused on pandering to just one person, so family values certainly isn't something they support. Anyway, the idea itself is, as said, it's basically just the Incredibles in isekai. The family who got transported to the isekai, they initially all have their own conflict, but in having an adventure together, they became closer. That's the basic idea. But if you want more details, I can give it. The family in question have a parent, a brother, a sister, and a family dog. Upon being transported to the isekai, they are all given your basic JRPG class and weapon. The father is a tank paladin with heavy armor and shield, the mom is an offensive mage, the sister is a thief with a bow, the brother is your cliché swordsman, and the dog is a healer. The brother, as the stand-in for your usual isekai protagonist, is the most well-versed in how to navigate this world, while having a squabbling relationship with his sister, who couldn't believe it's her brother nerd trivia that's saving their asses in this world. He was distant from the rest of the family, his father having been strict to him, while his mother rather neglectful. He of course latched onto the isekai genre as an escape, as a way to make himself feel special. Upon seeing the princess of the world, he fell in love with her on first sight, with the entitled feeling that since he's a protagonist of the isekai, the princess belongs with him by default. And though he tried to hide it, the family caught onto this and initially teased him for it. They later encouraged and grant him the confidence to move forward. The sister, and this can be either the younger or the older, it doesn't matter, is a rebellious type that bites at everyone else just for the sake of being antagonistic. So it manifests into her being a bow thief who specializes in tactics that pisses everyone else off. She uses a bow that allows her to easily steal kills from her brother, uses underhanded tactics her father doesn't approve of, then she often interrupts her mother during casting to stop her from taking all the credits by herself. She's uninterested in the questing and helping people side of the adventure, just more excited about her newfound power and how it will help her to get rich. She wanted to be able to break free and independent of her parents, which is why I think it might be the better idea to make her the older sister. Her arc in this world is to grow out of this antagonistic attitude, to learn that this attitude doesn't help anyone, especially not herself, and your typical arc of how family is more important than money. The mom tried her best to be a good mother to the kids, but has been running a small business on her own for years. I'm thinking it's her own organic vegetable farm, so maybe a charity, something that's a passion project and took away much of the time she could and, to be honest, should have been spending with her kids. Alternatively, you could replace it with any artistic pursuits, though I just think it'd be best if there's a job that will also take her out of the house. Her business has been small for years and was only able to stay afloat because of the dad's support, which in turn got the mom a lot of resentment from the kids, as she was ignoring them for a business that wasn't even profitable. and their dad seemingly pampering the mom, yet acting unfairly strict to them. It was only shortly before being transported to Isekai that her business started to hit jackpot and became successful, which is why she felt fulfilled at her job, and now in the Isekai, she is far more willing to try and get closer to the kids. To try and enjoy this Isekai experience with them, even though to them it might feel a little bit too late. And deep inside, perhaps she herself also wanted to hurry and get back because she finally got her business off the ground. So she felt that the feeling of her dream coming through was already within reach, if only she could get back to Japan. The dad, as the shield of the group, wishes to be the dependable authority for everyone to fall on. But now in this world, as everyone else but him are DPS roles, while he is also by far the slowest member of the family, he finds himself unable to do anything when his kids jump right ahead of him into battle. His wife is the heaviest damage dealer, and even when everyone got hurt, it's the dog they all depend on. Especially because back in Japan, he stood for the Japanese ideal of the Daikokubashira, that the dad is the supporting pillar of the family. He worked for a job that he hates for the sake of gaining financial stability for the family, especially to support his wife's personal career. He holds an ironically similar thought process to his daughter, that as long as they have money, the kids shouldn't have anything to complain about. But it is why he harbored even further inferiority complexes when he sees that his wife's career is taking off and that the family will soon no longer be needing his hard working. Which is why he was strict on his kids, because he wanted to establish his authority, because he wants them to be as smart and capable as he is, and also unconsciously because he was using them to vent on the stress he amassed during work. Though it wasn't like he was so bad he was abusive. Which is why in this world, he now lost that edge that he has on the rest of the family. As a tank, he still is very much intent on being the one to get hurt for his family. But as things are, the family doesn't even look like they need him. So his arc is to learn to regain his authority and their dependency on him, but in a newer, more flexible and understanding way. Then there is the dog that acts both as a physical and emotional healer for everyone in the family. The audience is included. I just want to have a dog that serves a functional purpose in the story. The more obvious choice would be to have the dog be the speedy one of the party. Most likely with a knife in the mouth, but in that case, it will just be another DPS role which combines with the fact that, well, it's a dog and can't talk, therefore it can't have a proper character arc on its own, so it ended up being a character you could just cut out and the story wouldn't change. And you know I don't like having characters like that in the main cast. So I think it'd be best to make the dog a healer. Then it'd be a vital part of the family even if it cannot have a character arc of its own. What could possibly be more wholesome than a dog that wants to hug the whole family? So for the plot, sure you can just go with a typical one since the family dynamic is the main idea of the story, but like what Incredibles 1 had and Incredibles 2 hadn't, I think it wouldn't also hurt to give more love to the plot department as well. If you really want to prioritize plot over character, you could even make the whole family already be close and happy to begin with. That's also a unique wholesomeness you don't see in anime often in itself. Though I sure wouldn't know how to write that. At any rate, what that special plot bit will be, I'm afraid you're gonna have to figure that part out by yourself. Another idea I considered writing myself, but opted against exactly because if I started writing an new story, I won't have time to run this exact channel. I'm barely able to make for a weekly upload as is. This is a method of how even if you do use a basic isekai story structure, the story can still feel fresh and unique. The premise is that the protagonist is sent to an isekai, but due to some circumstances, the setting of the isekai will constantly change. He would be transported to your average fantasy isekai at first, meet some people, learn about the world, and solve some of his problems. You know, the typical charade. But after a while, he would wake up and find himself in a completely different world, perhaps in a space opera style alien planet. Though the catch here is, the people he has met and the relationships he had forged with them are carried over. Say, in the fantasy world he has met an elf princess, fought an orc general, and encountered a dragon he wasn't able to defeat. But in a space opera, the elf princess is now a Vulcan-like alien daughter of the galactic president, the orc general is now a Klingon-like alien warlord, and the dragon is now a planet-eating giant jellyfish or something. It's a multiverse. For simplicity of explanation, it's like Into the Spider-Verse, where every universe has its own Spider-Man, though in this case, it is important that the Spider-Man the protagonists run into will always have the same name and similar enough personality and appearance to be identifiable. The catch is that while these people did technically change, their memories of the protagonist has remained intact, only adapted to suit the setting, so it's not like the relationship they had are all reset. He didn't bring the magical gem that chased back the orc army, it was the anti-gravity device he brought that repelled the enemy space fleet. The setting can change over and over, from fantasy to space opera to a more earth-based sci-fi setting with mechas to pirates to Sengoku to the Wild West and so forth. Not only that this will enable you to give a large multitude of tastes in a single story, it will also enable you to deliver a unique and fresh story even if you stick to the typical Isekai convention plot. This premise could be a good opportunity to have the protagonist shine in various ways, because idealistically, the method he used to solve the conflict in each setting will also have to change to fit that setting's mechanics and rules. Of course, to reflect this, you can make it so that the protagonist's special ability changes with every setting change, though I feel that having him have only one ability that never changes would be best. But the point then would be that he will have to find new and unique ways to use that same power. Like a post-Part 3 JoJo character, his power should be based in a single rule. The important thing is that the protagonist should find new ways to use this single rule power to solve the problem. And for once, it would also be an actual logical justification to why this random otaku dude was chosen. It is because he is the only one who is familiar with all the genres and therefore can adapt to the changing world with far better ease than anyone else. The trigger for the world change can be random, or it could be by a specific condition being met. Personally, I would just make each setting its own arc, and so he is transported when the arc is over. Though you can also subvert this from time to time, have him ship world in the middle of an arc before he could complete the objective to keep the audiences on their toes. In this new world, it could turn out he had already failed the objective of the previous setting, or achieving the objective will suddenly become so much more difficult when he has to learn the setting's specific mechanics from scratch. And basing on that once again, perhaps you can also tie each setting to a specific character. That the setting is changed when the protagonist solves the person's conflict. This way, you can use a setting to further accentuate the main conflict of an arc. The protagonist might not be much help to the nerdy mage research in the fantasy world, but in a sci-fi world, maybe he would fare better in the scientist research. Maybe his high school level Japanese history is useless in the sci-fi world, but maybe it would be of great use in the Sengoku world. This would also be a golden opportunity to integrate the protagonist's trope savviness and highlight on just how useful it can be across several genres. Though this could easily fall neatly into the mode of the light novel's typical one heroine per volume, where the protagonist helps a new girl every volume and therefore adds her to his harem collection. Of course, it's not in my power to stop you from doing that, but remember that the point of changing the world is to make every arc feel fresh and different. So, girl or not, don't just make the arcs formulaic. The center character of each arc doesn't have to be a romanceable girl. He could also be helping the male soldier who will become his best friend, the old king turned galactic president who has trouble ruling multiple planets at once, or even the orc general turned pirate lord who's constantly seeking revenge from him. In each setting, maybe some enemies will be turned into friends and some friends into enemies. Or maybe they're still allies, but now they're also committing war crimes left and right. It can also add to another level of intrigue and depth to see how each character will turn out in each setting, while also giving the protagonist the morals of always keeping an open mind. Alright, so there you go. 4 isekai ideas for this week. You can expect a bunch more both of Isekai and non-Isekai to come, some clearly better than the others, some more filled out than the others, some clearly need more work than the others, but in the end, it's your job to fill in the gaps that you please. Though I would advise that if you want to hop onto these projects, you must be well versed in Japanese enough to be able to write natural sounding dialogues, about N2 at the very least in the JLPT. If not, then I hope you also have someone else who's very good at Japanese to help translate the dialogues for you. Or who knows, maybe I have inspired you to come up with completely new ideas outside of the examples I've given here, and that's also great in itself. In that case, feel free to contact me if you need help. And if you don't think you want to write but still want to help, then feel free to donate to my Patreon. Every single penny from there will be used for the self-publishing and promoting of my books. Also, please sign the petition for the change.org page below so that I may get the editor's attention and an opportunity for an interview. Or feel free to share this video with your friends or discuss in the comments below how you would tweak my ideas. Next week, we'll be going to the world of superpowered psychopaths in Botoku no Uchronia, or Blasphemous Uchronia. Like and subscribe and click on the bell icon to know when it will come out. As for this time, thank you for watching.